Welcome to another episode of Live Stream Insiders. My name is Peter Stewart, and together with Krishna Day, this is a review of the last 7 days of live streaming video news in the next 30 minutes or so. And what we do every week is we set ourselves a little bit of a timer so we can keep an eye on that 30 minutes. Usually I have this clock, but for obvious reasons, this week I have this clock, which is my little Christmas pudding. So let's just set that for 30 minutes. Here we go, and hand over to Krishna Day, my co-presenter on Live Stream Insiders. Hi, Krishna. Welcome to episode 114.
And I should say, the last formal episode of this year together. We might well pop on if something comes up, but I know that we said last time that we were going to have a couple of weeks off just over the Christmas, particularly as both Christmas Eve and also New Year's Eve actually follow us on that same day for our show. So if this is the first time you've been with us here at Livestream Insiders, we hope you'll come back in 2018. And what we've been doing for the last 2 and a bit years now is looking at the latest news, tools, techniques, also in terms of case studies and guidance about how you can integrate live streaming, be that live audio or live video, into your communications. So that's what Peter and I do here. And you'll find out later on in the show how you can get access to all of the things that we talk about, because we always put a curation together. But this show is absolutely here for you if you're involved in, let's say, social selling, marketing, you're looking to engage your employees inside your enterprise, or in fact, you're actually looking at crisis communications and using social content, and particularly in terms of live streaming and live video and live audio in the context of actually all of those areas of communication. So what we like to do every week is bring you, as I said, the latest tools or techniques or case studies or interesting stories for you to consider, that you can actually start to weave into your business plan, your communications plan, to think about how you can use it. And we've got some of those for you. So I'll be talking a little bit later on about an entrepreneur and how they've been using live streaming. We'll be highlighting a few tips from them. And Peter's got lots of interesting stories. In fact, a couple of stories, particularly this week, around live streaming platform Twitch. We do try to keep our shows to around 30 minutes. I think we'll try and do that today because we know everybody's busy, and we've been a little bit lax in that because we've had so much news for you. And if you're still looking for your last minute gifts for the holiday season, make sure you check out our archive of last week's show. You'll be able to find that on YouTube and also on Livestream Insiders Facebook page, because we covered lots of ideas for you, everything from real budget, free things even, that you could actually pass on to live streamers in your life, through to actually some of the more expensive things to look at in terms of an investment, some things that we were talking about in our last episode. But with that, Peter, over to you in terms of, let's get us moving on what we've got in terms of stories this week.
Absolutely, and we'll be talking in a few moments' time about the end of the payment line for Facebook Live publishers. Krishna has just mentioned she's got a great, fantastic live streaming success story for one particular individual, so you want to check that out, and a few kind of hints and tips about what made it work for that particular person. More calls to police sexual streaming, which I know is something we've spoken about before, but we don't apologise for mentioning it again, because it is something that does bring the live streaming platform into a bit of disrepute. Also, Alexa is incorporating some Twitch skills, and also I've got a big box this side, so we've got a genuine live unboxing of my copies of my brand new book. So if you haven't seen it before, I haven't seen it before. So we're going to be discovering this together just before the end of the show. But first of all, is Facebook Live dying? Because there was a quote this week which got a certain amount of traction from one particular publishing organisation, digiday.com, which is pretty well respected, that says, earlier this year it became clear that Facebook Live was a dud. And that is, they say, the reason why Facebook has decided to stop paying publishers. Well, Digiday was saying that this was new news, but you know what, Krishna? I remember talking about how these publishing deals were going to be coming to an end Oh, 4 or 5 months ago, we were talking about it, and those deals have now been confirmed to be coming to an end in the next few weeks, as Facebook suggests. And various publishers have told Digiday that Facebook is no longer planning to pay them to produce live or pre-recorded videos. And what they were doing was they were paying a not insubstantial amount of money to pay various big names, whether they be publishers or whether they be individuals, to produce content over the last few years. Now, there was a bit of a stipulation. There had to be a certain number of minutes. Live videos had to be at least 6 minutes long. And apparently part of the reason behind this was to get a bit of traction, get a bit of oomph, get a bit of firepower behind live streaming on Facebook, to give it a bit of publicity. Because if you saw one of your favourite brands or personalities using live streaming, then you'd realise what it was all about and you'd start doing it yourself. Another reason was, though, so that Facebook could test out some of those mid-roll ads during those particular programmes. 300 publishers and celebrities apparently were all part of this deal. Back in 2016 it all started. Let me look at some of the stats here. $50 million were paid to 140 publishers and video creators over the course of a year, including BuzzFeed, who apparently got $3.1 million, the New York Times $3 million, CNN $2.5 million, and also celebrities such as Michael Phelps and even Gordon Ramsay from this side of the pond, the foul-mouthed restaurateur and chef, all being paid to go live on the platform. And those teams actually, or those companies and individuals actually set up some live streaming teams, a little crew, little production units to put together their live streams and also their pre-recorded videos. 5, 6, 7, 8 people or more who potentially now could be out of a job because they are not being financed, of course. And now Facebook has changed its deals to include payments for live videos and on-demand videos in a news feed. And as I say, all that is going to be changed over the next few weeks as it comes to an end. And of course, as I say, that means that those individuals potentially could be out of a job. So something which a couple of people have focused on during the course of the week was that, oh, this is a reason why now we've got confirmation. Facebook doesn't even believe in Facebook Live anymore. I really don't believe that is the case. I think they've got a huge number of people using it. It could always be more, but they've decided to push their money, push their marketing budget in a slightly different direction. So that is how some of the big publishers have perhaps doing a bit of a pivot over the next few months, and instead doing something else. They're not being paid to use Facebook Live. What about one or two particular individuals? Because now Krishna has got some details about how live streaming helped one individual earn $11,000 in 3 weeks. And it's a particularly interesting case study. I would suggest it's rather unusual, but I think some of the points that Krishna is going to be working our way through over the next few minutes are really ones that we could all be using, and all could have a bit of a light bulb moment ourselves with how we could better utilise live streaming to get a bit of wonga in our back pockets.
You know, Peter, that was really interesting about that conversation. And I know a few people have had a conversation with you because, of course, you having published the book, and we're going to see the live unboxing a little bit later on, although it is available live and it has been for the last week or so for people to be able to purchase. And just in terms of people saying, oh gosh, this is the end of live streaming, I don't know where those people are, because I mean, certainly in my mind, we're actually not even anywhere near kind of the adoption of using live video. We're nowhere near in terms of getting people starting to use video, let alone live video. There's a long way to go. And I'm not just talking about small businesses, I'm talking about large companies. One of my jobs over the Christmas vacation, I got the email about it on Friday night, is I actually judge quite a number of digital marketing awards. And often I get asked to look at the category of social media and social marketing. And I just had a look down in terms of the 30 or so entries that I've got to spend time on. I'll enjoy looking at them. But I know for a fact that I'll find very little use of live streaming with those organisations. And that's from an Irish context. I know that's the same in terms of in the UK. So, it may be that publishers aren't getting the investment, but, not everybody's a publisher. And the benefit of publishers doing it is it gives people ideas, saying, oh, we could do this. So it gives people examples and so on. But of course, Facebook is going to put some investment behind it, both in terms of resources and time and energy. But of course, they're going to be moving on to the next thing. And that's always the thing with change. Even if I think about corporate change, often the leaders are kind of out there and they've moved on and they're on to the next thing. And I would highly anticipate, it's going to be a lot more chatbots. I've just seen Lego launch a chatbot, a gift bot this week. And I think that, they're doing some interesting things there. So if you're looking for what to buy somebody for in terms of from the Lego store, then you can actually go onto their Facebook page and look at their chatbot. And I think we're going to be looking at far more augmented reality and so on. So of course the big brands, the organization you work for is absolutely at the forefront of technology. So please don't think that because there's no money going into those organizations that live streaming has had it. There's such a long way to go. I don't know if you agree, Peter, in terms of, because your organization is absolutely at the forefront of technology.
Absolutely, and I'm sure you would agree, Ruth and Sabrina and Stephen as well. We haven't really cut through the number of people, the recognition, the understanding, the utilisation of live streaming. And even though perhaps some of these big companies may decide, and I don't think they will, to stop live streaming completely, it really hasn't broken through on the high street, has it? With the small entrepreneurs, with the small mum and dad stores, your small bakeries or your real estate agents or estate agents, as we say over here, or a DIY store, and the hints and the tips and getting people to adopt the know, like and trust factor of your marketing before they actually buy from you really hasn't broken through at all.
So much more to do, and what we're going to look at now is a case study. So later on, after the show ends, I put together all the links, so you'll be able to come back and have a look for all the links of the stories that we've covered. And this was a particular story that we've highlighted for you, and it's about an entrepreneur using live streaming, because I know we have everybody from organizations, large organizations, medium-sized organizations, startups, who actually watch the show. And so we try to bring you a variety of case studies. So in this particular one, I know that, in fact, thank you everybody for joining us here live. We know that it's a really busy time of year for most people, and we appreciate you being here. And also those of you who decide to watch on the replay, we appreciate you too. But in terms of, for some of you, you may not have started doing anything in terms of live streaming at all. But I know a number of you are here that Peter's just given you guys a mention of, and you are aficionados. You've got a lot of experience in terms of mobile live streaming or in terms of doing live streaming from desktop, as we're doing today. So in this particular case study, we're looking at an entrepreneur, and whilst there's lots and lots of tips, there's 10 insights about this individual. We're actually going to direct you to it. It's over on entrepreneur.com, but actually I'm just picking out 3 things which I think are good reminders, even for those of us who have got a lot of experience in terms of using live streaming. But if you're an entrepreneur and you're on your own, not necessarily in a large organization like Peter is, but if you're an entrepreneur, then these are some ideas for you to look at. So this story was about an individual who, as Peter mentioned, actually had earned $11,000 in her first 3 weeks. And some of you may know her. I've not had the opportunity to watch her, or I don't believe I've seen any of her content. Her name is Nicole Walters, and she was interviewed. There's a little video interview on entrepreneur.com, and a follow-up part of the interview is in terms of some points there. And it should be said that in terms of where she started off, she was working in a FTSE 500 company. So she was in an organization. She was managing accounts, which were huge accounts. It doesn't say exactly what her role was. But in 2015, she actually began live streaming. And then, so it says in the article, her income started to increase. So if you're in a large organization, this might be something that you can still take some ideas from. But this is particularly for those of you who are thinking about using live streaming for your small business. Now, the first thing is that in that same year, she actually quit her corporate job. Now, this feels a little interesting to me because as an ex-HR person, I was just interested in the fact that she apparently, the article says, she quit her job via a phone conversation that she live streamed on Periscope. So we've seen people actually live stream customer complaints on live stream platforms. In this particular case, she's resigning her job. I think that probably says something about maybe the kind of organisation she's with. Maybe she was maybe she was a virtual worker. I know certainly in my experience of being in a corporate, it would be quite unusual for somebody to resign by a live streamed phone call or even a phone call of any description. But anyway, so she founded a business called The Monetized Life, and that's about her speaking and doing entrepreneurship in terms of tips. And so let's just take a look in terms of part of that interview that's on the Entrepreneur website. So I think the first thing I want to highlight from the 10 points that were highlighted there is that a great headline in terms of saying she earned $11,000 in the first 3 weeks. But let's just look at it, kind of stopping any misconceptions. One of the first things is that she had already built a career. So this is not about saying you can earn lots of money in a week or 3 weeks live streaming and have no experience behind you. What is very clear from this is that actually what she was doing is she was leveraging her knowledge and her experience, and she'd already been doing some things in terms of live streaming. So she'd already been helping organizations in terms of with revenue, and so that was the foundation of her business. So I know there's lots of people who say, oh gosh, you can become kind of a live streamer overnight, or even a vlogger overnight. I was reading an interesting piece of research that was from the UK around young people, and I always am interested in that because I've got 3 teenage daughters myself, in terms of what are the most interesting careers for people these days. And it actually wasn't the doctor or the dentist or the lawyer. That's further down the list now. It's actually people want to be vloggers. Young people want to be vloggers. And, that's who they see all the time. The kind of the celebrity status is very different to actually when I was actually growing up. So that's the first thing in terms of, she had skills and she was bringing those to bear in terms of on that live stream. And then she said, it was an interesting comment, she said, nobody can ever outwork you. She said in her ordinary role, in her corporate role, she was looking for new opportunities. She made sure she was valuable. She spoke up, and she was constantly trying to, as she describes it, triage problems and find solutions. And interestingly, the thing there, she says, make herself visible. So she was delivering a lot of value and in terms of the relationships and the work she was doing. And that was also obviously giving her opportunities. And from that, she was learning. And then she could actually bring that learning into actually tips that she was sharing through her live stream. The second tip that I have for you from the article is about testing your idea. So she already had a blog. So she wasn't, again, doing this cold. She already had a blog that she'd grown throughout her career for a period of time. And then she also was sharing some of her wisdom in terms of her financial experience as well. And then she started to answer questions that came in from bloggers. So they were saying, well, what have you done in terms of monetizing your business, monetizing your blog? How are you getting these opportunities? So again, she actually was testing things out. She didn't just say all of a sudden, I'm off. And I think that's really wise for anybody who's looking to set up their own business. I know when I actually was setting up my business, I actually did a lot of research before I did that. I've changed course a number of times over the time I've actually had my own organization, but I actually did do that research beforehand. So she knew about sales, she knew about product development. So again, she was leveraging off that. I think the other third thing I actually just want to highlight to you is about consistency. And that was about consistency in terms of being visible. And, as Peter and I have talked about for a long time, and I talk about all the time in the workshops I deliver, it's about selecting the right platform for you. And, while she might have been interested in being on lots and lots of platforms, just good common sense is actually around really do well on the platform that you want to invest in with the people who are there, who are already connected with you, with people who are actually going to be interested in your products, your services, and actually be consistent rather than trying to flit off into lots of other places. There's lots of great shiny objects around. I know I can easily get distracted, but there's actually some things that I'm looking at in terms of I really want to, bottom out and really implement a couple of things in the next probably 60 days that have been on my long list to do before I move on to anything else. I think that was really interesting in terms of, I think that's a tip for all of us. What she said here is pick something and be consistent. I don't care what you're doing, but as long as you do it and you're doing it frequently. And that, the thing is, one of the tips from Peter and I is about that consistency. It's great to be able to jump on and do a live stream in terms of when there's an opportunity or where there's news. So in Peter's case, he does that. He doesn't know what the next lot of breaking news is, but he'll be there on the front line, live streaming it or producing video content for his organization. Whereas there are some situations, such as in ours, where we try to be consistent every time, every week, the same time. We've changed the format of the show around. We've changed the platform we've used. We've changed the stories. But we've tried to be consistent, pick a time, so therefore people know and they can rely on you. And I have to tell you, that's a big learning in terms of, I think, also from, if I look at YouTubers. A couple of years ago, I asked my youngest daughter, because I was speaking at a conference about podcasting and using video with podcasting. And, she could reel off what the best YouTubers were doing. And one of them was about that consistency. She knows that on a certain day, her favorite YouTuber will be publishing that show, and she's ready to receive it, be it by going online to look for it or actually having a notification sent to her. And so I think that's the other thing. Be consistent, show up. And I think that's what we actually had there in that situation in terms of that case study. So we'll put a link to it later on. It's on entrepreneur.com. Really always interesting to have a look at actually how other people are using live streaming and what their experience is. So that's Nicole Walters, and in her first 3 weeks, she actually earned $11,000. But it's like those musicians. I can't remember, I was listening to the radio yesterday and there was a musician on, and it's like, you might think I've come from nowhere, but I've actually been doing this for the last 15 years. Just nobody knew about me. And I think it's about that, of course there's going to be some people who come from nowhere and become a viral sensation. But for the majority of us, it's about putting in that work and leveraging the knowledge and the skills that you've got and actually making sure you've got something that other people are going to be interested in, not only what you're interested in doing, but also they're going to invest behind what you're doing. So thanks, Peter, for identifying that case study for us this week.
It's always a balance, isn't it, between consistency and keeping on with something rather than knowing when to quit, and the realization of, actually, you know what, this isn't for me, or this isn't working for me, or it's not working out as I'd expected. When do you make that decision? It's up to you, and perhaps a bit of honest and pleasant feedback from those around you who know, love and support you. Okay, in a few moments' time, I've got the scissors ready. We'll be doing that live unboxing in a few moments' time of my new book. I genuinely have not seen the book itself, apart from a PDF and a front cover. I've not actually held it in my hands. You'll see that in a few moments' time. First of all, something we've mentioned before, and that is about sexualized streaming, particularly in regard to Twitch, in the news on the BBC website this week. Of course, as you know, Twitch is the video streaming service that broadcasts people playing computer games. It was actually bought by Amazon a couple of years back in 2014 for £700 million. So that's nearly $980 million. And more complaints that kids on there are sexualizing themselves, or young women particularly. So this is kind of the other way around, not the grooming, not the male grooming, but the women sexualizing their streams. various states of undress, doing things, as the BBC report was saying, a series of suggestive exercises like squats to tempt people to watch their channel, and in doing so hand over the bits, which is Twitch's microcurrency. They've been dubbed booby streamers, and apparently the number of them have grown over the last few months, and parents are particularly worried, particularly concerned, particularly upset about how much of the streaming concerns the lack of material covering these young women, and they've been talking about a poor job, they've been saying, of policing the growing amount of sexual content on the site, and also these women who then push people through to their Patreon site where they sell sexual favours and explicit pictures and explicit videos and that kind of thing. But it all starts off on the Twitch site, which some people have said and pointed out it is against Twitch's guidelines. Let me just read some of these out to you, which explicitly prohibit, quote, nudity and conduct involving overtly sexual behaviour and or attire and the selling of sexual services. So what have Twitch had to say about this? Well, a bit of a vanilla response, a bit of a grey response. If inappropriate behaviour is observed, we encourage viewers to report it, since our moderation team reviews all cases. But of course, the big thing is that if advertisers see their content running alongside these kind of sexualised content, then they may soon start to object or pull the plug on their advertising, and then of course Twitch suffers as well as those streamers themselves. But obviously some people are out for a quick buck while they can before Twitch actually clamps down on the kind of content they're producing. Krishna.
Really interesting in terms of that whole area, because we've talked about that not just on Twitch, but also in terms of on other platforms like Periscope. And what I did think about, Peter, as I was reading that story, is that I think is going to influence people about what platforms to use. Again, there's some articles that I've seen in this last week or so about how organizations are using Twitch, and we've seen that change a lot in this last year in terms of, open now for creators and so on. But I do think that, it's not only about the issue about the role model, but it's also about whether it's going to detract or deter people from actually wanting to use the platform. So I'm sure Amazon and Twitch are going to have to get their heads together about that, because that's going to be the last thing that they want in terms of people not actually being encouraged to use it or being deterred from using it, because of course people might discover lots of other things. But of course, that's the same in case in terms of we've seen on Periscope specifically, or other platforms as well. We've got another Twitch story for you. This is the last story from me, formally for this year. Although, of course, if there's anything amazing that comes up, I'm sure Peter and I will be jumping on to the conversation. Thank you so much, everybody who's joining us here. We really appreciate you doing so, and also for those of you who shared the show. We'd love to know, actually, before we finish up the show in just a short while, what are your plans in terms of, do you hang up your live streaming gear for your organisation, or are you planning to do lots of live streams over the next few weeks? I mean, I've seen some organisations use live streaming in terms of last-minute sales and ideas for gifts, like we did in terms of our show last week. But we're interested to know, what are your thoughts in terms of, are you going to be hanging up your business live streaming gear, or are you actually planning to do lots of live streams over the Christmas and New Year? And what about personally, are you going to be live streaming a lot in terms of with friends and family? Maybe that's privately as well. Here's the last story from me, as I said, in terms of from a story about Twitch. And this is something in terms of which will be of interest, I think, for some of you who are using Twitch. And that is about that actually Twitch has launched an Alexa skill that plays your channels on the Echo show, and it offers audio streams. Now, I have to say that I do have a device, but I actually can't get my hands on it because my kids have actually commandeered it, and usually we find one of them using it. But actually Twitch, as I mentioned before, Amazon owned, actually is in terms of, because of Twitch being used historically a lot for gaming, You actually now can use it on Alexa. So the company says it's launched a new skill on Alexa for device owners. It allows Twitch to actually users to be able to track their favorite video creators and be notified when they start streaming, as well as discover new games and channels, among other things. And according to the announcement from Twitch, users can get started with a new skill by connecting their Twitch account to Alexa, and then they can ask Alexa at any time for various information, like about which channels they're following or suggestions of following of channels to follow and so on. It's actually interesting in terms of this as an element, because for some of you, you might remember that Peter took an extended vacation, and during that vacation, I had a number of guests with me. And one of the guests I had with me was actually somebody from Spreaker, the live streaming platform, in terms of your podcast, your audio podcast, and also it could be live audio you do. And they'd also launched that. So if you've got a podcast that's actually on Spreaker, you actually can again make sure that people know that they can get access to that through Alexa as well. And it says here that it's only because of the connection to Amazon, it was only a matter of time before Twitch rolled out the skill to Alexa device owners. And it's interesting because I might have thought that they would have done that sooner in terms of on their own properties. But anyway, they said it probably isn't in its final format because actually it's still open to feedback. So if you're actually using Twitch and you're using Amazon, you actually can give them feedback around what things that you'd like to see. They said in the article that it actually, there's some things that probably aren't as useful because of the fact of it being audio related. And obviously in terms of gaming, you really want to be able to see it. So I think there's a lot more work to be done there in terms of that integration. But really interested to see a lot more of that. And voice is going to be so big, much bigger, I think, in the year ahead. We're actually already seeing that in terms of voice search and how it's going to be affecting digital communications going forward. So you might want to have a look at that if you're using Twitch, and you actually might want to encourage people and have a shout out to tell people how to go about actually accessing you on Amazon, and also watch out if you're actually following content and you've got a device there, then you actually can go and follow your favourite live streamers or look for other content there in terms of, let's say, if the holiday TV shows are rubbish, if it's full of replays and old movies that you're not interested in, you can find some interesting live streams, perhaps on Twitch or other platforms.
And indeed, that's what Stephen is suggesting. He said, we took a vote on Blabbing for Britain about doing a show between Christmas and New Year. 3 out of 4 said yes, because they'd be bored by then. But then he says, note, I was not one of them. Thank you indeed so much for watching. This is our last show of 2017, and it strikes me there's still time to get that last Christmas present in from your favourite online store before the big day itself, or either for you or maybe somebody else. Forgive me, I've got a big box here, and now I'm going to be doing, here is the big box. Genuinely, this is unopened, and the unboxing of this box of books with my book inside. So forgive me, I've not opened this before, genuinely. So, okay, let's grab the one off the top. This is the first copy. This is the first copy of the live streaming handbook. Boy, oh boy. You'll notice on the back, the foreword is written by Al Roker of the NBC Today show. And it's full of colour pictures and screen grabs and so on of examples. Here we go, and it's in full colour. And let's just whiz straight to the back so I can show you that it is boom, 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 boom. Let's go just before the index. 352 pages. You notice that there are a few other books on Kindle and so on which say that they can teach you everything you need to know about Facebook. Some of them are only about 20 or 30 pages. 352. and full of all sorts of things, all sorts of quotes and bullet points and, as I say, screen grabs and so on. Nice big pages, 350 of them. There's some more screen grabs there. Full colour. I'm really pleased with that. That is really, really nicely laid out. Nice glossy colour pages as well. It feels really, really good. Oh, and incidentally, at the end of every chapter, and I've nearly finished, Krishna, I appreciate this is turning into a bit of an ad, but at the end of every chapter, like this one, for example, there are all sorts. You can see all those notes there, all of the links to more content, more websites, more information, more how-to guides. Krishna is noted and quoted several times in the book, you'll note, about how to do things, because she is the queen of tech when it comes to live streaming. So, you know what? You'll go onto Amazon, you'll look at the price, you'll slap your forehead and you'll go, boy, oh boy, how much? Hopefully you'll agree that it's worth every penny, every cent, every dime. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that moment with me. I'm rather pleased with that. That looks rather good. Yeah, I like that. Thank you so much. If you do go out and buy it, or maybe you'll recommend it to other people, I really appreciate it. And thank you for bearing with me for that rather hard plug this week and a couple of times last week as well. I really appreciate it. And
yeah,
on that
Peter,
note,
I think people are really excited about seeing this. Because we've got lots of friends here who we've met over the years. We really appreciate you being with us. So let's see, we've got a couple of comments here. Patricia asks, how does it feel to hold the book in your hands?
I've written a few other books, but it's the first time I've done a live unboxing, and actually it means a lot to share this moment with you. It's because previously I've just been holding up this kind of piece of flimsy paper with it, but to actually hold it there, it's an awful lot of work, I can assure you, as you probably would imagine, over 350 pages. So it feels good. It feels good. If you want to know any more
Bob
information
says, congratulations, so exciting to see you open your book. And what else have we got? Stephen saying, congratulations, look forward to reading it.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, Patricia and Bob.
And yeah, everybody's really excited about that. Okay, so we've got one last story, Peter, which I think you're going to wrap up with.
Absolutely, yeah. So just one last.
We had to indulge him. It's only, it's only every few years that he gets his typewriter out and starts typing up another book or pens it or whichever way he did it. In terms of, I think it's about book number 3, isn't it, Peter, for you?
Absolutely. Every time I say never again, I'm just looking over here for my other books in my bookcase. Oh, here we go. Here's one of the others. Here's one of the others here. Another book about journalism. And can I grab another one? Yeah, I can. Here's another of the books about journalism as well. And there's another one which is on another shelf, which I can't quite reach at the moment. So yeah, this is number 4.
Sabrina said, congratulations. It's a meaty book.
It is indeed.
Yeah. Anyway, and I've seen he's been really busy this week. This is the last bit of promo you're going to get about this, Peter. He's changed his photograph on his. I've noticed all these things. He's changed his photograph on his Twitter avatar. I think on his Facebook page. He's got a new a kind of cover image in terms of he's getting with this marketing groove. Spending a bit too much time in my company here, Peter, I think.
No more TV.
And some nice quotes from people in terms of ideas and so on if you look over at his Twitter account. Anyway, enough about you.
And Patricia, thank you for the...
let's finish up with another live streaming messenger story. But thank you, everybody. It was really nice for you to be here with us and actually celebrate in terms of with Peter with his virtual unboxing. And I'm looking forward to reading a physical copy soon. I know that I was very fortunate to be able to take a look at the digital copy, let's say, before I actually went off to the publishers. Anyway, we have one last story for you, Peter. That I think you're going to take us through now.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very quickly, really, just a couple of sentences about Facebook is celebrating the first year of games on Messenger by adding something new to that particular service, new titles, a couple of new features as well, and starting with the ability to live stream them to friends so you can show your friends how good you are or how bad you are at the various games. And all you've got to do is to tap that icon, as you can see it there, the top right, the little camera icon, that is new. And then you can decide, which is rather a good idea, which audience you want to actually share it to before you actually do so. And that has gone live in a number of circumstances, being starting to roll out already. And apparently they've got another edition in store for 2018 as well. So it's be a nice New Year's present. You'll be able to play games with friends from within the video chat in real time. You'll be able to see each other's reactions and things like that. So have a better level of connection and engagement. And you know what, Krishna, it kind of strikes me that connection, engagement, relationship, you mentioned a couple of times a little bit earlier on in relation to your first story. And it kind of strikes me that that is really a nice way to end Live Stream Insiders for 2017. Connections, relationships, communication, community as well. Coming together, you and I, presenting some of the live streaming video news. Well, it's episode 114, so we've been doing this, we're now into our third year. And also, I guess it's a good note to leave things on for the holidays as well, isn't it? As people get together, either virtually or in real life with their communities, with their families, to strengthen their relationships, meet up with people perhaps they haven't seen for a long time, whether it be families or co-workers or distant workers or ex-colleagues, sharing good times, sharing memories, and then, of course, into the future, new year, the resolutions, looking forward, what they're going to be doing with their lives, with their families, their intentions, maybe their bucket lists, maybe for their own personal life or their health or their well-being, or maybe their live streaming lives, their business, their social, their mojo. So perhaps that's a good way to end our last show of 2017. Thank you very much indeed for being part of our community. Thank you so much for being our friends. Some of you we have met in real life. Most of you, all of you, would like to meet in real life. But you know what? It's great that you are here, whether you're watching live as we broadcast here in the UK and Ireland on a Sunday evening, or wherever you are in the world, wherever you're watching live, or whether you're watching the pre-recorded version. Krishna, I know you'll join me in wishing everyone happy holidays, happy Christmas, have a great time with your friends and family, and very best social media lives for 2018 as well. Thank you so much indeed for watching us over the last 12 months. Happy holidays. Take care of yourselves and each other.